But this isn't really about, in my opinion, CBS being fearful of losing some sort of lawsuit. I think this is really about a merger that Paramount, the parent company for CBS, wants to ensure goes through without the Trump administration standing in the way. So Sherry Redstone is the chair of CBS's parent company, Paramount. Paramount wants to merge with Skydance.
Anna Kasparian just went off on CBS for their blatant media manipulation. And honestly, she's got a point. The network finally released the full, unedited 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, but not out of a commitment to transparency. No, this was about protecting a massive corporate merger and playing politics behind the scenes. So, why did CBS sit on this footage for so long? What were they trying to hide? And more importantly, what does this reveal about the media's role in shaping political narratives? Let's break it all down, because once you see what's really going on, you'll never look at mainstream news the same way again. Take a look.
CBS has officially released the full, unedited version of the interview they had with Kamala Harris back in October for 60 Minutes. And I'm talking about the entirety, right? As she was sitting down to get framed, all of it. It's all released to the public as a result of Donald Trump and his FCC essentially going after CBS for what Trump believes was an unfair editing that made Kamala Harris look better than she really sounded. So if you can remember, the main point of interest and the controversy in this pre-election interview was that Kamala Harris seemingly gave two separate answers in response to a question on Israel on two different broadcasts, or not in two different broadcasts, same broadcast, but that CBS intentionally edited her answer in what aired on the official 60 Minutes interview to make her sound better. So in a teaser clip that was released on Face the Nation prior to the full interview being aired, you can see the following exchange between Kamala Harris and journalist Bill Whitaker. Okay, so Whitaker asks, does the US have no sway over Prime Minister Netanyahu? Harris responds, the aid that we have given Israel allowed Israel to defend itself against 200 ballistic missiles that were just meant to attack the Israelis and the people of Israel. And when we think about the threat that Hamas, Hezbollah presents, Iran, I think that it is without any question our imperative to do what we can to allow Israel to defend itself against those kinds of attacks. Harris continued in her answer that was part of the teaser clip. Now the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles, which include the need for humanitarian aid, the need for this war to end, the need for a deal to be done, which would release the hostages and create a ceasefire. And we're not going to stop in terms of putting that pressure on Israel and in the region, including Arab leaders. Whitaker kept pressing, saying, but it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. And she says, well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region. So upon first glance, like that exchange appeared to have, been altered in the final cut of the full interview that aired for 60 Minutes. They basically cut it down significantly, right? And so what you saw if you watched the 60 Minutes interview was the following. Whitaker asks, does the US have no sway over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? Harris responds, the work that we do diplomatically with the leadership of Israel is an ongoing pursuit around making clear our principles. Whitaker asks again, but it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening. And then Harris responds, we are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end. So the argument from the Trump team was, well, her actual full answer, which was edited down, was a word salad. It made her look bad. And CBS essentially put its thumb on the scale by editing her answer down so it's more concise and more like definitive and confident. Like, and Trump kept arguing that, this was changing the outcome of the election, even though it didn't change the outcome of the election. Trump won. And honestly, Kamala Harris's campaign was not good. He won the popular vote. So why do you keep pressing on this issue? Why are you still moving forward with this attack against CBS and using the FCC in order to do it? So there was an inquiry. The inquiry was originally dismissed. However, the case was reopened when Trump appointed Brendan Carr as FCC chair. So the transcript, in my opinion, proves that CBS didn't really do anything crazy, right? Like, you have to sometimes edit a pre-recorded interview down because of time restrictions. If you're broadcasting on television, you have to cut to break. So you have to edit certain things down.
High-profile political figures. This controversy has reignited concerns about whether major networks are more interested in shaping narratives than delivering the full truth. Critics, particularly from the Trump administration, argue that CBS deliberately edited Harris's responses to make her appear more coherent and polished. When the full, unedited footage was finally released, it became clear that her original answer was long-winded and unclear. This selective editing, they claim, is a textbook example of how mainstream media subtly manipulates public perception by omitting unflattering moments, especially when it comes to powerful political figures. The debate over media bias isn't new, but this instance serves as yet another example of how networks carefully craft their content to fit a particular narrative. It raises a critical question: is the media informing the public, or are they curating reality to serve their own interests? Favored political figures often receive a media shield, and this controversy only fueled concerns about biased coverage. The Trump administration took the issue seriously, with former President Donald Trump and his hand-picked FCC commissioner, Brendan Carr, demanding the full interview's release. Their argument? The American public deserved to see exactly what Kamala Harris said, without CBS acting as her PR team. Trump and his allies claimed that the edited version distorted reality, making Harris sound more decisive and polished than she actually was. But this wasn't just about one interview. Pushing the FCC to get involved was about setting a precedent. News organizations should not manipulate political narratives to favor one side. The big question remained: if CBS had nothing to hide, why did they resist transparency for so long?
But this isn't really about, in my opinion, CBS being fearful of losing some sort of lawsuit. I think this is really about a merger that Paramount, the parent company for CBS, wants to ensure goes through without the Trump administration standing in the way. So Sherry Redstone is the chair of CBS. CBS's parent company, Paramount. Paramount wants to merge with Skydance. And in order to merge with Skydance, you're gonna need Trump administration officials to play ball and not stand in the way of that happening. So I believe that Sherry Redstone, who's gonna make a lot of money off that merger, has an interest, a financial interest in just playing ball with Trump, giving him what he wants to ensure that that merger goes through.
Yeah. So this is going to set a terrible precedent. I'll come back to that. On Paramount and CBS, look, I would have given the full footage and I would have given it immediately because there was something wrong with the footage. So I think that they fueled conspiracy theories more by withholding the footage. Having said that, will they cave in and pay Trump money? Very likely. And should they? No, that's a terrible precedent. I'll come back. But Anna's 100% right. This is exactly what's wrong with the threatening media companies. Because now they got a merger that they need the government's approval on. And they know Trump's the most biased person in the whole wide world. And he's not gonna tell the person in charge there, oh, you know what? You guys make any decision that you think is right for the economy and the markets. No, he's gonna tell them if they pay me money, approve their merger. If they don't bribe me, pay me money for this absolute nonsense junk, then deny their merger. So this is the president just wantonly, brazenly taking bribes from these media companies and intimidating them into positive coverage. It's disgusting. So now, did they do anything wrong? Guys, they call it, there's a lot of word games, right? They call it altered. Well, it's also edited. Same thing, right? So it would be altered, which sounds worse and negative, if they did one of two things. If they said, well, you know what, we altered the meaning of it. So she said no, but they switched it to yes, right? Or they took a yes from a different portion of the interview and put it in when she actually said no. Okay, then I'm with you, terrible, etc. You still don't take the license away. You just have everybody not watch that junk television, right? You don't have the government threaten freedom of the press. That's not how you'd handle it. But I'd be super mad at them if they did that. But they didn't do that. Her answer that went on TV is totally the same as the longer answer.
Again, that major media outlets prioritize their bottom line over transparency. Kasparian and others weren't buying the idea that CBS suddenly had a change of heart and decided to release the full tape in the name of journalism. Instead, the theory gaining traction is that CBS's parent company, Paramount, was protecting its financial interests. At the time, Paramount was pursuing a major merger with Skydance, a deal that could have been jeopardized if the Trump administration decided to intervene. By complying with a request to release the unedited interview, CBS was likely trying to stay on Trump's good side, avoiding any regulatory roadblocks that could threaten the deal. This wasn't about journalistic integrity, it was corporate self-preservation, once again proving that major media outlets prioritize their business interests over transparency. Once again, this highlights how mainstream media operates at the intersection of politics and business. While news networks often edit interviews for time constraints, the issue here wasn't just about trimming down a long answer. It was about strategically curating a politician's response to shape public perception. If CBS had simply shortened Harris's remarks for brevity, critics might have let it slide. But what they did was far more calculated, cutting out the rambling parts to present a more concise, confident version of Harris that didn't exist in reality. Now, imagine if the situation were reversed. If a conservative politician's remarks were selectively edited to make them appear more competent or presidential, would the media have responded with the same indifference? The double standard in political coverage couldn't be more glaring. It's a perfect example of how media outlets not only cover the news, but actively influence how it's perceived, depending on which side they choose to favor.
The answers were
terrible.
Bad.
Yeah, they were terrible.
They were
answers.
bad. They were both bad.
Yeah.
And in fact, the edited version I think is worse because she didn't really say anything in the edited version, right? Like the shortened version of her statement doesn't really give you any substance. And look, I think the proof is in the pudding. I mean, he swept the swing states. So the idea that CBS put their thumb on the scale to help Kamala Harris win is honestly, in my opinion, a very weak argument. But I actually think the poll among our audience on this issue is really interesting, Cenk. So can we pull that up and talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So the poll was, do you think CBS edits were nefarious? So what do we have in terms of results?
Yeah, let's bring it up.
Yeah, 57% no, 43% yes. You think 43% thinks yes? That's so
That's the
interesting.
YouTube audience. Yeah.
Okay. So we do these polls during the live show. Come check it out Monday through Friday, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock Eastern. I'm surprised it's that high. Nefarious. It was still a crappy answer. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. To me, it's blindingly obvious. Trump is trying to get money, intimidate the press, and take away as much freedom of the press as he possibly can. And he's a government official. Core violation of the Constitution. All right, lastly for me, terrible precedent. Okay, so now can every president do this? Can every politician do this? Oh, that media outlet slightly hurt my feelings. They edited it wrong. Now we're gonna evaluate every edit of every interview of every time a politician's involved or is criticized. No, I want them to say this and not that. Oh, my feelings are hurt. Oh, that's it, I want to sue them. The president is suing media companies to bully and intimidate them and possibly blocking their mergers to intimidate them. It's disgusting. And if you're worried about the tyranny of government, this is what tyranny looks like. And if you think, oh, it's okay, you're gonna be in charge forever, you're not. And if you hate Democrats, if you're a right winger, you think Democrats aren't going to use this? Okay, I mean, if you think they're core evil, as a lot of the right wing does, then wouldn't they love this? Oh yeah, okay. Now Fox News says something I don't like. Joe Rogan said something I don't like. Did they edit their videos? That's it, they edited it, that's it. Fox News, give me $100 million, $1 billion, or I'm gonna take your license away, I'm gonna block your mergers. That's not what we're supposed to be doing in America. It's third world, tin pot dictator.
This controversy highlights the ongoing distrust in corporate media, especially among conservatives, who argue that outlets like CBS function as an extension of the Democratic Party. The effort to protect Kamala Harris is just another example of how the press can work to boost weaker candidates while attacking their opponents. Harris has faced criticism for unclear messaging and word salads, and CBS's attempt to edit her into a more polished figure only reinforces the idea that the media is more focused on crafting narratives than reporting facts. This incident is a clear reminder that skepticism toward mainstream media is not just justified, it's necessary. What do you think of today's video? Let us know in the comments.